A princess lies unconscious in a tower. A prince enters her chamber. He leans over her sleeping body. And what happens next has been rewritten, sanitized, and buried for 400 years. The version you know ends with a kiss. The original ends with rape, pregnancy, and a queen trying to cook children and feed them to their father. This is what Disney did not tell you. This is the real Sleeping Beauty. You know the fairy tale. A beautiful princess, a curse, a spinning wheel. She pricks her finger and falls into an enchanted sleep. Vines grow around the castle, and years pass. Then a prince arrives, fights through the thorns, climbs the tower, and wakes her with true love's kiss. Disney released their version in 1959. It features Princess Aurora in her pink and blue dress, Prince Philip battling the dragon, and Maleficent cackling in her castle of thorns. The kiss, the awakening, the wedding, it became one of the most beloved animated films ever made. Little girls dressed as Aurora for decades. The story became synonymous with romance, with hope, with love conquering evil. But the tale Disney told was over 300 years old by then, and the original version contained something so disturbing that storytellers spent centuries trying to erase it. The earliest known written version appeared in 1634. An Italian writer named Giambattista Basile collected folk tales from villages across southern Europe. Stories passed down through generations. Dark stories, stories not meant for children. He published them in a book called The Tale of Tales. Inside was a story called Sun, Moon, and Talia. Talia is a nobleman's daughter. When she is born, wise men warn her father that she will face great danger from a splinter of flax. Flax was used to make thread. It came from spinning wheels. Her father bans all spinning wheels from his lands. He believes he can cheat fate. Years pass. Talia grows into a beautiful young woman. One day, she sees an old peasant woman spinning thread outside the castle walls. Curious, she asks to try. The moment her fingers touch the spindle, a splinter drives beneath her nail. Talia collapses. Her body goes limp. She stops breathing. Her father tries everything to wake her. Court physicians, healers, prayers, nothing works. But he cannot bring himself to bury his only daughter. Instead, he carries her to a throne in a remote country estate. He lays her body on velvet cushions. He closes the heavy wooden doors. He shutters the windows. And he walks away forever. The estate falls into ruin. Vines creep up the stone walls. Dust settles on the floors. Cobwebs fill the corners. And in a silent chamber at the top of the tower, Talia sits motionless, waiting for no one. This is where the story stops being familiar. Sometime later, a king is hunting in the forest with his men and hounds. His falcon flies through an open window of the abandoned estate and does not return. The king follows. He walks through empty halls, past crumbling tapestries, past overturned furniture, up a winding stone staircase. And there, in a chamber filled with dust and silence, he finds her. Talia, still beautiful, still motionless, still breathing, but unresponsive. He calls to her. She does not answer. He shakes her shoulders. Nothing. He tries everything he can think of. She does not wake. And then the original story says something that has haunted scholars for centuries. The king, inflamed by her beauty, carried her to a bed. And there, the text says, he gathered the fruits of love. Let me be clear about what that means. He raped her. She was unconscious. She could not speak. She could not resist. She did not know he existed. And when he was finished, he left. He mounted his horse, He rode back to his castle. He returned to his queen, and he forgot about Talia entirely. 9 months later, still asleep on that dusty bed, Talia gave birth. Twins, a boy and a girl. She never woke during the pregnancy. She never woke during the birth. Her body delivered 2 children while she lay motionless in that abandoned tower. The babies cried. No one came. They crawled across her body, searching for milk. One of them found her hand. Mistaking her finger for a nipple, the infant began to suck and drew out the splinter of flax. Talia opened her eyes. She had no memory of the king. She had no idea how she became pregnant. She woke alone in a crumbling estate with 2 infants she had never seen before. She nursed them. She named them Sun and Moon. And she waited, not knowing what else to do. Eventually, the king remembered her. He returned to the estate expecting to find her still asleep. Instead, he found her awake, caring for 2 children. His children. The story says Talia was grateful to see him. She welcomed the man who violated her. The fairy tale frames this as love. But the horror does not stop there. The king had a wife. A queen sat in her castle, wondering why her husband muttered strange names in his sleep. Sun, Moon, Talia. She sent spies. They returned with the truth. Her husband had fathered children with another woman. The queen's response was not tears, not confrontation. It was revenge. She sent a servant to Talia's estate with a forged message claiming to be from the king. "Come to the palace," it said. "Bring the children." Talia obeyed. The moment the children arrived, the queen seized them. She summoned the royal cook to the kitchen and gave him an order. "Kill them, butcher them, cook their flesh, serve them to the king for dinner." The cook was horrified, but the queen was his ruler. He took Sun and Moon to the kitchen. He raised his knife. He couldn't do it. Instead, he hid the children with his own wife. He slaughtered 2 young lambs and cooked them with garlic, herbs, and rich sauces. That night, the king sat at his banquet table. Servants brought the steaming dishes. He ate every bite. The queen watched him chew. When the plates were empty, she leaned close and whispered in his ear, "You are eating what is your own." The king did not understand. The queen repeated it again and again, "You are eating what is your own." Finally, she told him the truth. She had murdered his children. She had fed them to him. He had swallowed their flesh without knowing. The king roared with grief and rage. He called for guards. He ordered the queen seized. But she was not finished. Soldiers had already dragged Talia to the courtyard. A massive fire blazed in the center. The queen intended to burn her alive. Talia fell to her knees. She begged for mercy. She asked for one final request, to remove her fine clothes before she died. The queen agreed. She thought it was vanity. But Talia was stalling. With each garment she removed, she screamed louder. Her cries echoed off the castle walls. They reached the king's ears across the courtyard. He ran. He stopped the execution at the final moment. The queen was thrown into the flames instead. The cook revealed that Sun and Moon were alive. The king embraced his children. He married Talia. And the story ends with a proverb. Lucky people, so 'tis said, are blessed by fortune whilst in bed. That is the original Sleeping Beauty. A woman raped while unconscious, impregnated without knowledge, expected to marry her attacker, and called lucky for it. For 60 years, this was the version nobles told each other in Italian courts. Then, in 1697, a French writer named Charles Perrault decided to clean it up. His version was called The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood. Perrault removed the rape. In his telling, the prince finds the sleeping princess and waits patiently by her side. She wakes on her own after 100 years. They fall in love and marry. But he kept part of the horror. Instead of a jealous queen, Perrault created an ogress mother-in-law. The prince's own mother secretly craves human flesh. When her son goes off to war, she orders the cook to slaughter her grandchildren. The cook hides the children and serves lamb instead. When the ogress discovers the truth, she throws herself into a pit of vipers and snakes. It is still dark, but the rape is gone. The story was becoming acceptable for wider audiences. Then came the brothers Grimm. In 1812, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm published their version for German children. They called it Little Briar Rose. No rape, no pregnancy, no twins, no cannibalism, no ogress. Just a princess cursed to sleep for 100 years. A prince fighting through a forest of thorns. A kiss. An awakening. A wedding in a grand castle hall. Everything that happened after she woke up, the entire second half of the original story, was erased completely. The Grimm brothers wanted fairy tales that taught moral lessons, stories for nurseries and schoolrooms, not nightmares about predatory kings and flesh-eating queens. And it worked. Their version spread across Europe and America. The original faded into dusty academic collections. Parents read Little Briar Rose to their children at bedtime, with no idea what the story once contained. Then came Disney. Sleeping Beauty, the most expensive animated film ever made at that time. Princess Aurora in her flowing gown. Prince Philip with his sword and shield. Maleficent transforming into a dragon. The spinning wheel in the tower. The magical kiss. True love conquers all. Good defeats evil. The princess wakes and lives happily ever after. No one mentioned Giambattista Basile. No one mentioned what the king did to Talia in that tower. No one mentioned the babies conceived while she slept. The fairy tale had been washed completely clean. But here is what is strange. The core of the story never changed. In every version, Basile, Perrault, the brothers Grimm and Disney, a woman is rendered unconscious and helpless. A man enters her chamber and does what he wants. She wakes up, and the story treats it as romance. The rape was removed, but the power dynamic remained. Aurora does not choose Philip. She does not rescue herself. She does not wake through her own strength. She lies there, beautiful and passive, waiting for a man to decide her fate. The original Sleeping Beauty is not a love story. It is a horror story. A story about what happens to women who cannot protect themselves. A story about men who see an unconscious body and feel entitled to it. A story about a world that blamed no one and called the victim lucky. For almost 400 years, storytellers worked to bury that truth. They rewrote it, softened it, sanitized it, until the horror became invisible. But the original still exists. In libraries, in academic archives, in the yellowed pages of Basile's Tale of Tales. And now you know what the prince really did to Sleeping Beauty.